Hello, this is Team CRW. We will be covering Boeing. My name is Jose Cabreja,
This is Jonathan Robinson.
William Washington.
and this is for Global Strategic Management 670 Spring 2020 with Dr. Johnny Williams. To start off, we'll be discussing Boeing's core competencies. Number one would be integration of large, complex systems with detailed customer knowledge and focus. Number two, the operating lean and efficient systems. And three is innovation. A few strategic business units that they have. They have three major business units: commercial airplanes, defense space, and security, and Boeing Global Service. These are the units that drive most of the revenue. Um, Boeing is a capital corporation, so they do have a president. Um, Boeing Capital Corporation is provider of financing solutions for Boeing's customers on the global front, and they ensure customers have the financing needed to buy and take delivering of Boeing's products. So Boeing does have a president and CEO. They also have the executive vice president, which is the government of operations, the executive vice president, general counsel, chief financial officer, executive vice president, senior vice president for the Embraer partnership and group operations, senior vice president for Boeing International, the chief engineer, senior vice president, the engineering testing technology, the senior vice president for manufacturing, supply chain, chief information officer, the senior vice president, information technology and analytics, and then the vice presidents for the different categories of communications, office of internal governance, human resources, and the president of Boeing Capital Corporation. This is the chart, just to the organizational chart, just to explain how the company would derive and how everything is operated.
So the current integrated cost leadership differentiation strategy, it failed to improve manufacturing processes to cut costs. Also, operating at or close to capacity decreased the efficiency and safety, and also increased cost per quantity because it affected the quality. So the background information on how this Boeing's commercial airplane division is largely relying on the aviation market and passengers and traffic, freight traffic growth, and they rely on buying more planes and more parts. And so Boeing has been in trouble before when in September 12, 2011, after the terrorist attacks, half of its orders for new jetliners were canceled or delayed, which is similar to the situation now with the downing of the 737. So former CEO at the time, Alan Mulally, he convinced stakeholders to work together. And by 2006, 5 years later, Boeing was back and stronger than ever, and its stock price rose up to $8 a share, which triple what it was in 2011. I mean, in 2001. So from there, Mully's successors, they scoffed and didn't believe in his idea of working together, and they went back to battling suppliers and implementing a cost leadership strategy, and that which diminished his BPR process, and so they also lost sight of what the company's why was. And so low-level output will inflate the future max production costs at Boeing, which has set aside $4 billion for additional expenses this year, and some of those funds will be used to aid suppliers. Also, the problems of cost leadership strategy that Boeing has mounted legal bill as it defends itself from civil lawsuits and probes by federal prosecutors, and security regulators, and congressional investigators. Customer compensation claims last year total bill of $8.8 billion, excluding potential payments to victim families as a result of multiple probes being conducted by authorities.
Okay, Boeing's 737 issues. 5,000 orders for the new plane are on hold. They recently removed in December 2019 their CEO. Boeing is facing tens of billions of dollars in damages for plane crashes. Boeing and the FDA are determined that the planes need new designing to allow pilots more time to react in an emergency. Software on the planes played a huge role in the deadly two crashes. They have new design flaws. The FAA requested an internal audit, which basically explained that the pilots would need more time to react in emergencies. The repair would be in over 800 of the 737, so they've been grounded since March. The plane crash killed at least 346 people because of the software malfunctions. Manufactured by the CFM International, a joint venture with GE. Basically, this slide summarizes the issues that they've had with the engines, everything from weaknesses in the rotors, which cause shaking, the outer shell of the engine housing having lightning strike protection and coated during thaw. Assemblers at Boeing painting the grill too thin for the plane, and they removed the fuel tanks so that the fuel line strike protection will provide that. Also, the pilots, there were issues. They said that they hadn't been trained to prescribe emergency procedures. The FDA mandated flight simulation training before clearing the 737. January, the authorities are projecting the lifting of the planes for June, and they had multiple types of flaws, from design flaws to quality control lapses to operational supervision overflight deficiencies to the value chain of communication breakdown and flaws in the assembly process. Boeing ignored these problems that could have caused emergency oxygen systems to fail. Basically, because they had a culture of meeting targets and cost cutting, that these things were missed, as well as the refueling tanker being $3 billion over budget and 3 years behind, and still having technical challenges to be able to get the estimated $300 million by the Government Accountability Office. And it was also found that there were tools and debris that maintainers had found in the walls and the floors and the wings of the delivery of the aircraft. And the existing fleet has been banned from carrying cargo. The KC-46 is now slated to fly its first combat mission no sooner than 2022, 11 years after Boeing was selected over Roberts to build the tanker. They're incredibly behind schedule.
So for the future plans of the international strategy, they want to the first thing, they want to change the culture of the company. They want to make it a safe environment for everyone, and that should be a priority. They also want to end matrix cost leadership and have a differentiation strategy focus, meeting deadlines and cutting costs. To a focused strategy, emphasizing safety, quality, and reputation repair. They also want to implement transitional strategy to achieve global efficiency and local responsiveness. This strategy allows access to developing new markets, and it also enables us to be proactive from a tactical position as international conflicts emerge. A transitional strategy is best for proceeding forward over the next 5 years. With over 70% of Boeing sales coming from international customers, having an international transitional strategy would increase profitability every year. And so going into the future plans for defense, since Germany recently considered the FA-18 over the F-35, this should help the fighter jets case to remain in production. In addition, Boeing has a target for $50 billion in sales for the Boeing Global Services segment over a 10-year time frame. BGS is forecasted to increase sales by 8% to 11% in 2021 and range from $18.5 billion to $19 billion. BGS is set to have an operating margin above 15%, which is normally higher than the original forecast of 14.5, and significantly more than the forecast for Boeing's defense, space, and security.
So the future forecast. Boeing believes that there will be a pickup in wide-body demand aircraft around the start of the next decade, driven by a replacement demand for existing aircraft. The forecast shows the need for approximately 8,200 new wide-body deliveries for passenger services over the next 20 years. That would be good news for Boeing because its 787 Dreamliner aircraft is currently counting Airbus's A330 by 21 net orders, and that was as of 2017. New production plans for Boeing 797-6 and 797-7 strategic action plan. These plans have the ability to seat 228 passengers and have the range to fly between 4,200 to 4,500 miles without refueling up. So these products would fill the need for airline customers who are seeking planes that passengers can board at a rapid pace and need a fast turnaround. And so also these products would also meet the need for a middle market aircraft, which would increase revenue by 15%. And this will give Boeing a chance to gain market share in the middle market airplane market and compete with Airbus in this market. And so, so also products of the future, a brilliant idea is to form an equity-based strategic alliance with Tesla, an equity-based strategic alliance that will provide them with manufacturing expertise and gain other technological advances. This will be goal-oriented to successfully develop a flying car. The flying car market will be very lucrative and place Boeing at the cutting edge of innovation and potentially increase profits by 20%. And so some of the expected savings and debt investments. Investing money in research and development to fix the mechanical issue with the Boeing 737. Also invest money in research and development to produce aircraft products that will be used in the United States space program. And this could potentially be a gain of over $3 billion in revenue for Boeing. And so also Boeing is cutting supply costs by competing with its own suppliers. This is one of the ways that it's saving. And Boeing has expanded its own manufacturing also. And so the recent deal to partner with Francis Safran to develop auxiliary power units, which provide energy for planes and other than for propulsion, is one example. And also Boeing reached a $3.2 billion deal to acquire aerospace parts company KLX as part of Boeing's strategy to move into lucrative aftermarket services.
Okay. Funding to cover the investment plans. The plan is to take advantage of low interest rates on business loans that are being provided in 2020. Boeing will raise additional funding through issuing bonds. These financial plans will continue to repair our reputation by allowing Boeing to avoid the acceptance of U.S. bailout. Boeing ended 2019 with $10 billion in cash and has usually kept that as a level of buffer in recent years. Funds would support the health of building a broader aviation industry because any liquid support to Boeing would be used for payments to suppliers to maintain the health of the supply chain. Boeing is on track to generate good returns for investors in the coming decade. The Chicago-based company disclosed in the SEC filing that it has drawn $13.8 billion from a line of credit and still has $9.6 billion more in undrawn credit. Boeing has spent more than $40 billion in the past 7 years on stock buybacks, would help drive the market value to $250 billion before the grounding of the 737 last year. Boeing's free flow for 10 years totaled $58.37 billion, while the company spent $43.44 billion, or 74% of the free cash flows on the stock repurchases. Companies basically Berkshire Hathaway criticized Boeing for doing so because it lowers the company's ROI by doing the free float and the buyback system. Let's see. Oh, financials. All right, so we projected in 2021 that the revenue is going to be 80 billion and that we're going to end up with a gross profit of 4.1 billion. In 2022, we're projecting that the revenue is going to be 86 billion, 86.6, and that the gross profit is going to be 7.6. In 2023, we're projecting that the revenue is going to be 97.8 and that the gross profit is going to be 11.8. That and in 2024, we're projecting that the revenue is going to be 109 billion.6, and then the gross profit is going to be 14.6 billion. We're also projecting in 2025, the last year of our projection, that our revenue will be 136 billion and our gross profit will be 28 billion. And with these projections, we were able to calculate ROI, which in our calculation is the total gross profit for the period divided by the total cost of revenue for the period. And we ended up with a 15% ROI for the 5-year period. And our ROI in 2025 as projected is 26%.
So a few notes and assumptions. The financials reflect Boeing's projected additional revenue, which the increased sales of the no longer grounded Boeing 737, the revenue received from the NASA United States Space Project, sales from the 797-5 and 797-6 that have been projected, the increase in the value of our equity-based strategic alliance with Tesla, and the sales from Boeing's flying car project. And so with that being said, here's a summary and the recommendations moving forward. In conclusion, there's several areas to summarize for improvement. First, it would be to buy back the shares in order to boost earnings per share. And by doing so, they'll increase their annual revenue. In the recent years, they wrongfully ignored minor discrepancies that ultimately cost them a lot of money. And so going forward, they should be attentive to the wiring failures and the software usage that they have in their planes. Boeing, being the world premier aerospace company, they use research and innovation in their products, and they're able to provide a quality product for their customers. The damn culture is important, and the people are important. Even the current CEO, Jim Albaugh, says ultimately our success depends on the single most important thing about Boeing, which is the people. And by making small adjustments, Boeing will be able to improve quality and the reputation, leading to bigger planes and better services. If Boeing wants a better future, it needs to look to its past. Boeing's why became about nothing more than cutting costs and boosting profits. And so here are a few of the works cited pages where we got all of the information from. And that is our project. Thank you for everything. This is Team CRW. My name is Jose Cabreja.
William Washington.
And Jonathan Robinson.